Jake Morrison walked through the glass doors of the International Wildlife Research Center, carrying his morning coffee and checking his watch. Today was the day he had been both excited and nervous about for months. The first group of alien exchange students would arrive at his facility in Montana, and he would be their guide to Earth's wildlife. The Galactic Education Consortium had chosen his research center after years of negotiations. Jake still found it hard to believe that beings from other planets wanted to study Earth's animals. According to the reports he had read, most alien worlds had much more advanced creatures than anything found on Earth. His assistant, Tony Blake, was already setting up equipment in the main observation room. Tony looked up as Jake entered and grinned. "Ready to meet our new students, Professor?" Jake nodded, though he felt a knot in his stomach. "I just hope we can show them something interesting. From what I've read about their home planets, our animals might seem pretty basic to them." Dr. Lisa Carter joined them, carrying a stack of files about their visitors. Lisa was the best animal behavior expert Jake had ever worked with. And if anyone could make Earth's wildlife seem impressive, it would be her. "I've been reading about our guests," she said. "We have 12 students from different planets, and their homeworlds have some incredible predators." She opened the first file. "Zephyr comes from Xerion Prime. His people are made of living crystal, and they can sense vibrations through solid rock. The top predator on his world is called a Void Stalker. These things cannot be seen. They can read minds, and they can walk through walls like they are made of air." Tony whistled. "That sounds impossible to hide from." Lisa flipped to the next page. "Krilta is from the Hive Worlds. She looks like a giant insect, but she's very smart. Her planet has creatures called swarm queens that can control millions of smaller animals at the same time. They hunt by surrounding their prey with an army of creatures that all think as one mind." Jake shook his head. "And I was going to show them our mountain lions." "Wait, there's more," Lisa continued. "Velnox comes from a water world called Aquaticus 7. He can breathe underwater and has special organs that sense electrical signals from living things. The hunters on his planet are called deep hunters, and they can feel the heartbeat of prey from miles away, even through deep ocean water." The three humans stood in silence for a moment. Jake wondered if this exchange program was a mistake. How could Earth's animals compete with creatures that could read minds, control armies, or sense life from across oceans? A soft chime indicated that the transport had arrived. Through the large windows, they could see a sleek silver ship landing on the facility's landing pad. The ship was beautiful, with smooth curves and no visible engines, floating down as gently as a feather. "Here we go," Jake said, straightening his jacket. The alien students filed out of their ship, and Jake was amazed by how different they all looked. Zephyr was the most striking. He stood 7 feet tall, and his body seemed to be made of clear blue crystal that caught the morning sunlight. When he moved, tiny lights flickered inside his transparent form like stars. Krilta walked on 6 legs, her body covered in smooth green plates that shifted color as she moved. Her head had large compound eyes and 2 thin antennae that moved, constantly sensing the air around her. Despite her insect appearance, she wore a device around her neck that translated her speech into perfect English. Velnox looked the most like a human, except his skin was pale blue and covered with a thin layer of moisture. Gill slits on his neck opened and closed as he breathed air, and his large eyes were completely black. When he walked, small puddles formed where his feet touched the ground. There were 9 other students, each as unique as the first 3. Jake greeted them all, trying to remember the proper pronunciation of their names and the correct gestures of respect for each species. "Welcome to Earth," Jake said. "I'm Professor Jake Morrison, and this is Dr. Lisa Carter and Tony Blake. We're excited to show you our planet's wildlife." Zephyr's voice sounded like wind chimes when he spoke. "We are honored to be here, Professor Morrison. We have heard much about Earth's creatures, though we understand they are quite simple compared to the hunters of our worlds." "Simple but charming, I'm sure," added Krilta. Her translator made her clicking speech sound polite, but Jake caught a hint of condescension. Velnox gestured with a webbed hand. "We are curious to see how such basic predators survive without advanced senses or mental abilities." Lisa stepped forward, and Jake could see a slight tightness around her eyes that meant she was trying not to be offended. I think you'll find our animals more interesting than you expect. Why don't we start with a tour of our big cat habitat? They walked through the facility's corridors, past laboratories and observation rooms. The aliens asked polite questions, but Jake could tell they were not impressed. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had, and their casual comments made it clear they thought Earth was a primitive planet. On Zerion Prime, Zephyr explained as they walked, our void stalkers can phase in and out of solid matter. They hunt by reading the fear in their prey's mind and then appearing inside their victim's body. The swarm queens of my world, Krilta added, can process information from millions of drones at once. They see everything, hear everything, and know everything that happens across entire continents. Velnox nodded. Deep hunters can sense the electrical patterns of life itself. No creature can hide from them in all the vast oceans of my world. They reached the observation deck that looked out over the big cat preserve. Below them, in a large enclosure designed to look like natural forest, several tigers rested in the shade of tall trees. The cats looked peaceful and lazy in the warm afternoon sun. These are Siberian tigers, Lisa explained. They're our largest cats and some of the most successful predators on Earth. The aliens looked down at the tigers with what Jake could only describe as polite disappointment. After hearing about creatures that could read minds and control armies, the tigers probably looked like oversized house cats. They appear to rely entirely on basic physical senses, observed Zephyr. Sight, smell, hearing, how limiting. And they hunt alone, noted Krilta. No coordination, no shared intelligence, no tactical planning. Their prey must be very slow and unintelligent to be caught by such simple methods, concluded Velnox. Jake saw Lisa's jaw tighten, but she kept her voice steady. Actually, tigers are incredibly intelligent hunters. They've been successful for millions of years. I'm sure they are impressive by Earth standards, Zephyr said gently, his crystal form flickering with what might have been sympathy. As they watched, one of the tigers stood up and stretched. It was a magnificent animal, over 10 feet long and powerfully built. The tiger looked up at the observation deck, its orange eyes focusing directly on the group of aliens. For just a moment, Jake thought he saw something in that gaze that made him shiver. The tiger wasn't just looking at them, it was studying them, analyzing them, learning about them. Then the moment passed, and the great cat padded away into the forest. Tomorrow, Lisa said, we'll do a practical demonstration. I think you'll find our tigers more impressive than they appear. The aliens agreed politely, but Jake could tell they were just being kind. They had no idea what they were about to discover. The next morning arrived with clear skies and a cool breeze that carried the scent of pine trees across the research facility. Jake Morrison met the alien students in the equipment room, where Tony Blake was handing out tracking devices and communication units. Today we'll do a practical tracking exercise, Jake announced to the group. This will give you a chance to demonstrate your natural hunting abilities while observing one of our tigers in action. Zephyr's crystal body sparkled as he examined the human tracking device. These instruments are quite primitive compared to our natural senses, he said politely. But we appreciate the gesture. Dr. Lisa Carter joined them, carrying a tablet that showed a map of the preserve. We'll be working in the northern section today. It covers about 5 square miles of dense forests, streams, and rocky areas. The terrain is challenging, which should make the exercise more interesting. Krilta clicked her mandibles, and what Jake had learned was excitement. On my world, tracking prey through varied terrain is a basic skill learned in childhood. My compound eyes can detect movement patterns invisible to single-lens vision, and my antennae can analyze chemical traces from days ago. Crystal resonance allows me to sense vibrations through solid matter, Zephyr added, his internal lights flickering. I can feel footsteps through rock and detect heartbeats from great distances. No creature can hide from crystalline perception. Velnox flexed his webbed fingers, and Jake noticed how the moisture on his skin seemed to move and flow. My bioelectric sensors can detect the electrical patterns of any living nervous system. Every thought, every muscle movement, every heartbeat creates signals I can read like words on a page. The other 9 alien students each described their own impressive tracking abilities. Jake felt that familiar knot in his stomach as he listened to their capabilities. How could any Earth animal compete with such advanced senses? They walked to the edge of the preserve, where a large gate separated the facility from the wilderness area. Lisa spoke into her radio, coordinating with the staff who would be monitoring the exercise through hidden cameras and drones. Amy Foster will be our observer today, Lisa said, introducing a young graduate student who carried a tablet showing multiple camera feeds. She'll track our movements and make sure everyone stays safe. Amy nodded nervously. This was her first time working with alien visitors, and Jake could see she was both excited and intimidated. All the drones are active, she reported. We have full coverage of the northern preserve. Lisa opened a transport cage, and Jake heard several aliens gasp in surprise. Sasha, a massive Siberian tiger, stepped out calmly and looked around the group. She was even more impressive up close than she had appeared from the observation deck. Her orange coat with black stripes seemed to glow in the morning light, and her amber eyes were alert but relaxed. This is Sasha, Lisa said, scratching behind the tiger's ears. She's lived at our facility for 8 years and she knows this preserve better than any of us. She's also one of the most intelligent cats we've ever worked with. Sasha sat like a giant house cat, her tail twitching slightly as she studied each alien visitor. Her gaze lingered on Zephyr's crystal form, then moved to Krilta's compound eyes and finally settled on Velnox's moist blue skin. Jake got the strange feeling that the tiger was memorizing each alien's appearance and characteristics. The exercise is simple, Lisa explained. Sasha will enter the preserve and move through it naturally. Your job is to track her using whatever methods work best for your species. We'll follow your progress through our monitoring system. How long should we give her before we begin tracking? Asked Zephyr. 5 minutes should be enough, Lisa said. She gave Sasha a gentle pat and the tiger stood and walked toward the tree line. Just before she disappeared into the forest, Sasha turned back and looked at the aliens one more time. Then she vanished into the shadows. The 5-minute wait felt much longer than it was. The aliens prepared their tracking equipment and tested their natural abilities. Zephyr's crystal body began to resonate with a low humming sound. Krilta's antennae moved rapidly, sampling the air. Velnox closed his large black eyes and stood very still, as if listening to something only he could hear. Time, Lisa announced. The aliens entered the preserve with confidence. Jake, Lisa, Tony, and Amy followed at a distance, watching both the aliens and Amy's tablet, which showed feeds from dozens of hidden cameras throughout the forest. At first, the tracking went exactly as expected. Zephyr immediately detected vibrations from Sasha's paws hitting the ground and pointed toward a stream about half a mile away. She moved northeast toward running water, he announced. Krilta's antennae twitched as she analyzed scent molecules. I can detect her pheromone trail. She passed this way approximately 6 minutes ago and was moving at a relaxed pace. Velnox opened his eyes and nodded. Her bioelectric signature is faint but clear. She paused near the stream, probably to drink. The aliens moved through the forest with impressive skill. They found Sasha's paw prints in the soft earth near the stream, discovered where she had indeed stopped to drink, and even located a tree where she had sharpened her claws. This is easier than I expected, Krilta commented. Earth predators leave very obvious trails, but as they continued deeper into the preserve, something began to change. Amy stared at her tablet with a puzzled expression. That's weird, she muttered. What is it? Jake asked. According to the camera feeds, Sasha should be about 200 yards ahead of them, moving toward the rocky area. But look at this. She showed him the screen. She's not moving in a straight line anymore. She's circling back, taking detours, using paths that don't make sense. On the tablet, they could see Sasha moving through the forest with purpose, but her route was becoming increasingly complex. She would head toward the rocky area, then suddenly change direction and move toward a dense thicket. She would walk along the stream for a while, then leave the water and climb up a steep hillside for no apparent reason. Meanwhile, the aliens were becoming frustrated. Zephyr's crystal resonance was being disrupted by the rocky terrain. "The stone in this area contains metals that interfere with my sensing," he complained. "I cannot get clear readings." Krilta was having her own problems. "Her scent trail keeps disappearing," she reported, her antennae waving frantically. She passed through an area with very strong plant odors that mask her pheromones. Velnox looked the most confused of all. "Her bioelectric signature is strange. Sometimes I detect her clearly, then she vanishes completely, then appears again in a location that makes no sense." Amy watched her tablet with growing amazement. The camera feeds showed something the aliens couldn't see. Sasha wasn't just moving randomly through the forest. She was systematically testing each alien's tracking method. When Zephyr used his crystal resonance, Sasha would move to areas with high metal content that disrupted his sensing. When Krilta relied on scent tracking, Sasha would roll in patches of wild mint or pass through areas where other animals had left strong odors. Most remarkably, when Velnox tried to detect her bioelectric field, Sasha would position herself near the stream or in areas with natural electrical interference from mineral deposits. "Jake," Amy whispered urgently, "I don't think she's just avoiding them. I think she's studying them." Jake looked at the tablet and felt a chill run down his spine. On the screen, Sasha had stopped behind a large tree and was watching the aliens through the underbrush. But she wasn't hiding from them. She was observing their behavior, learning how they tracked, figuring out the limitations of their advanced senses. "Lisa," he called quietly, "you need to see this." Dr. Carter looked at the tablet, and Jake saw her eyes widen. "My God," she breathed. "She's not being hunted, she's hunting them." The aliens, still unaware of what was happening, continued to struggle with their tracking. Their confidence was fading as their sophisticated senses failed them again and again. What had started as a simple demonstration was becoming something none of them had expected. On the tablet, Sasha moved to a new position, still watching, still learning. And Jake realized that the real demonstration hadn't even begun yet. 2 hours into the tracking exercise, the alien student stood in a small clearing, looking more confused than Jake Morrison had ever seen any intelligent being look. Their advanced senses, which had seemed so impressive that morning, were failing them completely. Zephyr's crystal body had stopped its musical humming. The resonance that let him feel vibrations through solid rock was giving him nothing but conflicting signals. "This is impossible," he said, his internal lights flickering with frustration. "My readings show she should be in 6 different places at once." Krilta's compound eyes darted in all directions while her antennae moved frantically through the air. "I keep losing her scent trail. It appears, then vanishes, then appears again somewhere else entirely. No creature should be able to mask their pheromones so completely." Velnox had given up trying to sense Sasha's bioelectric field. His large black eyes showed something Jake had never expected to see in such an advanced being: fear. "Her electrical signature is behaving in ways that should not be possible. Sometimes I sense her heartbeat, but it seems to come from empty air. Other times I detect nothing, even when logic says she must be nearby." The other 9 alien students were equally baffled. Their various tracking methods, evolved over millions of years on their homeworlds, were useless here. They stood in a tight group, no longer the confident hunters who had entered the preserve. Amy Foster stared at her tablet, watching the camera feeds with growing amazement. "Professor Morrison," she whispered, "you have to see this." Jake looked at the screen and felt his breath catch. The cameras showed Sasha moving through the forest with incredible precision. She wasn't just avoiding the aliens anymore. She was actively stalking them. On the tablet, they could see her creeping through the underbrush, always staying just outside the range of the aliens' senses. When Zephyr sent out his crystal resonance pulses, Sasha would freeze and wait for the sensing wave to pass, then move during the brief pause before the next pulse. She had learned the exact timing of his ability. When Krilta tried to follow scent trails, Sasha would circle downwind and approach from angles where her smell couldn't be detected. She had figured out how compound eyes worked and was using their blind spots to stay hidden. Most disturbing of all, she had somehow learned the range and frequency of Velnox's bioelectric sensing. She would position herself just outside his detection range, close enough to watch but far enough away to remain invisible to his advanced senses. "She's hunting them," Lisa Carter said quietly. "She's actually hunting them." Tony Blake looked up from his own monitoring equipment. "It's worse than that. Look at the thermal readings." He showed them a different screen that displayed heat signatures throughout the forest. What they saw made everyone go silent. Sasha wasn't alone. 3 other big cats from the preserve had joined her. A mountain lion, a leopard, and another tiger were all moving through the forest, coordinating their positions around the alien. "Students. They're learning from her," Amy breathed. "She's teaching them." Jake watched in fascination as the cats communicated through subtle signals he had never noticed before. A flick of Sasha's tail, a particular way of holding her head, even the angle of her ears. All of it was information being passed between the predators. The mountain lion had taken position on high ground where it could observe Zephyr's crystal resonance patterns. The leopard was studying Krilta's scent-tracking behavior from a tree. The second tiger was learning how Velnox's bioelectric sensing worked by watching Sasha's demonstrations. In the clearing, the aliens were beginning to panic. Zephyr's lights flickered rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in his species. "Something is very wrong here. I can feel that we are being watched, but my senses detect nothing. The electromagnetic fields in this area are behaving strangely," Velnox reported, his gills fluttering with anxiety. "There are bioelectric signatures all around us, but they don't match any known pattern." Krilta's antennae were twitching so fast they were almost invisible. "I smell predator musk, but it comes from everywhere and nowhere. This forest has become a trap." The other aliens pressed closer together, their various forms of communication creating a babble of worried sounds. Clicking, humming, whistling, and frequencies that human ears couldn't detect filled the air as they tried to understand what was happening to them. "We should return to the facility," suggested one of the students, a being that looked like walking liquid metal. "This exercise has become dangerous." But when they tried to leave the clearing, they discovered something that sent real fear through the group. Every path they tried to take was blocked, not by physical barriers, but by the overwhelming sense that something was waiting for them in the shadows. Zephyr sent out a powerful resonance pulse, stronger than any he had used before. For a moment, his crystal form blazed with light as he pushed his senses to their limit. What he detected made him stagger backward. "There are at least 4 large predators surrounding us," he announced, his voice shaking like breaking glass. "They are positioned at perfect intervals around our location. We are completely surrounded." The aliens had never experienced being prey before. On their homeworlds, they were always the hunters, never the hunted. Their advanced civilizations had eliminated most natural predators millions of years ago. The feeling of being stalked by creatures they couldn't detect or understand was terrifying. Amy looked at her tablet and saw something that made her gasp. Sasha had moved to a position directly behind the alien group, less than 50 yards away. She was crouched low, every muscle in her body tense and ready. But she wasn't preparing to attack. She was studying them with an intensity that was almost scientific. "Professor," Amy said urgently, "I think she's trying to figure out how they think." Jake looked at the screen and realized Amy was right. Sasha's behavior wasn't that of a typical predator preparing to hunt. She was watching the aliens' reaction patterns, learning how they responded to fear and confusion, understanding how their advanced minds worked under stress. The other cats were doing the same thing. Each one was focused on a different aspect of alien behavior. The mountain lion was studying their group dynamics, how they moved together when afraid, who emerged as leaders, how they communicated under pressure. The leopard was analyzing their individual stress responses. The second tiger was learning how their various technologies and abilities functioned when the aliens were panicked. "My God," Lisa whispered. "They're not just hunting the aliens, they're learning to hunt intelligence itself." In the clearing, Velnox made a discovery that chilled him to his core. His bioelectric sensors, designed to detect the electrical patterns of nervous systems, were picking up something impossible. The predators surrounding them weren't just coordinating their positions, they were sharing information through subtle, electrical communications between their nervous systems. "They are learning," he announced to his fellow students, his voice barely a whisper. "These creatures are sharing knowledge in real time. Each predator is teaching the others everything it learns about us." The alien stood frozen in the center of the clearing, surrounded by Earth predators that had just discovered how to hunt the most advanced species in the galaxy. For the first time in their evolutionary history, they were face to face with creatures that could match their intelligence and exceed their adaptability. And somewhere in the forest around them, Sasha watched and learned, preparing to teach her fellow predators the most important lesson of all: how to hunt beings that had considered themselves the ultimate hunters in the universe. The sun was setting behind the trees, casting long shadows across the forest. The alien students had been trapped in the clearing for 3 hours, and their fear was growing stronger with each passing minute. Jake Morrison could see the panic in their alien faces through Amy Foster's tablet as the camera feeds showed their desperate situation. "We have to help them," Amy said, her voice tight with worry. "They're terrified." Dr. Lisa Carter was studying the thermal readings that showed the positions of all 4 big cats. "I've never seen anything like this before. Look at how they're coordinating their movements." On the screen, Sasha and the other cats were moving in a perfect pattern around the clearing. They stayed just outside the aliens' detection range, but close enough to make their presence felt. It was like watching a dance that had been practiced for years, even though these cats had never worked together before. Tony Blake looked up from his communication equipment. "I've been trying to reach the aliens on their radios, but they're not responding. I think they're too scared to think clearly." Jake watched Zephyr on the camera feed. The crystal being's internal lights were flashing in rapid, chaotic patterns. This was a sign of extreme stress in his species, like a human having a panic attack. His people haven't been hunted by predators for millions of years. They don't know how to handle this kind of fear. Krilta was equally distressed. Her compound eyes were moving constantly, trying to watch all directions at once. Her antennae had stopped their usual chemical analysis and were now pressed flat against her head. A defensive posture Jake had read about but never seen. Velnox was perhaps the most affected. His bioelectric senses, which normally gave him confidence and security, were now a source of terror. He could feel the predators all around him, but he couldn't understand their intentions or predict their movements. "Look at this," Amy said, pointing to a different camera feed. "Sasha's doing something new." On the screen, they could see Sasha had moved to a fallen log about 30 yards from the clearing. She was lying on the log in a relaxed position, but her eyes were fixed on the aliens. Most importantly, she was completely visible to them. "Why is she showing herself?" Tony asked. Lisa studied Sasha's behavior carefully. "She's testing them. She wants to see how they react when they can actually see one of their hunters." In the clearing, the aliens had spotted Sasha. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Zephyr's crystal resonance became so powerful that small rocks around him began to vibrate. Krilta released a cloud of alarm pheromones that made the air shimmer. Velnox's bioelectric sensors went wild, sending out pulses of energy that made nearby electronic equipment malfunction, but Sasha didn't move. She just watched them with those amber eyes, completely calm while the aliens panicked around her. "She's showing them that she's not afraid," Lisa realized. "She's demonstrating that she's the one in control." Amy pointed to another part of the mountain lion is copying her. The mountain lion had also made itself visible, sitting on a rock ledge where the aliens could see it clearly. Like Sasha, it was relaxed and confident, showing no sign of aggression but making its presence known. Soon, all 4 cats were visible to the aliens. They formed a loose circle around the clearing, each one sitting calmly and watching the trapped students. It was a display of power that needed no words or actions. The message was clear. "We are here, we are watching, and there is nothing you can do about it." Jake felt a chill as he realized what was happening. They're not hunting the aliens in the traditional sense. They're hunting their confidence, their sense of superiority. Dr. Carter nodded grimly. Earth's predators evolved to hunt the most dangerous prey on the planet. Intelligent, tool-using, problem-solving creatures like early humans. They learned to attack not just the body, but the mind. In the clearing, the aliens were breaking down. Zephyr's lights were now so chaotic that he looked like a broken crystal chandelier. Krilta had curled into a defensive ball, her legs tucked under her body. Velnox was shaking so badly that water was dripping from his skin faster than usual. The other alien students were in similar states of panic. Beings who had traveled between stars, who commanded technology beyond human understanding, who came from civilizations millions of years older than Earth's, were reduced to cowering prey animals by 4 Earth cats who had simply learned to turn their own strengths against them. "I have to go help them," Jake said, but Lisa grabbed his arm. "Wait," she said. "Look at what Sasha's doing now." On the camera feed, Sasha had stood up from her log, but instead of approaching the aliens, she was walking away. The mountain lion followed her lead, jumping down from its rock and disappearing into the forest. One by one, all 4 cats withdrew from the clearing, leaving the aliens alone. "They're letting them go?" Amy asked in confusion. "No," Lisa said quietly. "They're showing them something else." Jake watched the aliens slowly realize that the predators had withdrawn. Relief flooded through the group, but it was mixed with confusion and lingering fear. They huddled together for several minutes before Zephyr finally sent out a tentative resonance pulse to check if the area was safe. His pulse detected nothing. The cats were gone. Slowly, carefully, the aliens began to move toward the edge of the clearing. They moved as a tight group, watching every shadow, jumping at every sound. It took them almost an hour to travel what should have been a 10-minute walk back to the facility. But they made it. As the alien students stumbled through the gates of the research center, Jake could see they were changed. The confidence they had shown that morning was completely gone. They looked like beings who had discovered that the universe was a much more dangerous place than they had ever imagined. Jake met them at the gate with Lisa, Tony, and Amy. The aliens said nothing at first. They just stood there, breathing heavily and looking around nervously, as if expecting predators to leap out of every shadow. Finally, Zephyr spoke. His voice was different now, quieter and less certain. "Those creatures, they were not hunting us to kill us." "No," Lisa agreed. "They were teaching you something." "Teaching us what?" Krilta asked, her antennae still pressed flat against her head. Dr. Carter looked at each alien student before answering. "They were teaching you that intelligence isn't enough. On Earth, being smart doesn't guarantee survival. You have to be smarter than creatures that have spent millions of years learning to outsmart creatures exactly like you." Velnox's large black eyes were wide with a new understanding. "The predators on our worlds hunt specific prey with predictable behaviors. But these Earth predators hunt intelligence itself," Lisa finished. "They evolved alongside humans, who are the most unpredictable, tool-using, strategy-developing prey in the known galaxy. Earth's predators learn to counter every advantage that intelligence provides." The aliens stood in silence, processing this revelation. They had come to Earth expecting to find primitive creatures. Instead, they had encountered predators more sophisticated than anything their advanced civilizations had ever produced. "We need to report this to the Galactic Education Consortium," Zephyr said finally. "This changes everything we thought we knew about Earth." Jake nodded. "Yes, it does. But first, I think you need to understand something else. What happened today wasn't unusual for Earth predators. For them, this was just another day of doing what they've always done, learning to hunt creatures that think they can't be hunted." The alien students filed into the facility. Still shaken by their experience, Jake realized that this exchange program had accomplished something no one had expected. It hadn't just taught the aliens about Earth's wildlife. It had shown them that in a universe full of advanced civilizations, Earth remained the planet where being smart wasn't enough to keep you safe. 3 days had passed since the tracking exercise, but the alien students still looked shaken. They sat in the research center's main conference room, their various forms huddled together as if seeking safety in numbers. Jake Morrison had never seen such advanced beings look so uncertain about anything. Dr. Lisa Carter stood at the front of the room, showing video footage from the exercise on a large screen. The aliens watched themselves being systematically outmaneuvered by Sasha and the other cats, and Jake could see them flinch at particularly embarrassing moments. "We've analyzed all the camera footage," Lisa explained. "What we discovered changes everything we thought we knew about predator intelligence." Zephyr's crystal form was much dimmer than it had been when he first arrived. "We have been discussing this among ourselves for 3 days. We still cannot understand how those creatures learned our capabilities so quickly." "That's exactly the point," said Tony Blake, joining the presentation. "Earth's predators didn't evolve to hunt animals with simple, predictable behaviors. They evolved to hunt the smartest, most adaptable creatures on the planet." Amy Foster pulled up a new video that showed Sasha's movements during the exercise. "Look at this carefully. She's not just avoiding your tracking methods. She's actively learning how each of your senses work, then developing countermeasures in real time." The video showed Sasha testing different strategies against each alien's abilities. When Zephyr used crystal resonance, she experimented with different types of terrain until she found areas that disrupted his sensing. When Krillta relied on scent tracking, Sasha tried various methods of masking her smell until she discovered which ones worked best. "This is impossible," Krillta said, her antennae twitching nervously. "No creature should be able to analyze unknown technology and develop countermeasures so quickly." "But it's not unknown technology to them," Lisa replied. "For millions of years, Earth's predators have been facing prey that uses tools, changes strategies, and develops new survival methods. They learn to adapt faster than their prey could innovate." Dr. Rick Campbell, the facilities biologist, joined the discussion. "Humans are the ultimate example. Our ancestors developed fire, weapons, shelter, and complex social structures to avoid predators. But the predators adapted right along with us. Tigers learned to avoid fire, work around weapons, and even infiltrate human settlements when necessary." Velnox had been quiet for most of the presentation, but now he spoke up. "The deep hunters of my world are considered the ultimate predators because they can sense electrical patterns across vast distances. But they hunt creatures that have remained basically the same for millions of years. They never learned to hunt prey that could change its electrical patterns or develop new behaviors." "Exactly," Jake said. "Your homeworld predators are specialists. They're incredibly good at hunting specific types of prey with predictable behaviors. But Earth's predators are generalists. They learned to hunt anything that could think, adapt, and surprise them." The presentation continued with footage showing how the cats had coordinated their efforts. Amy pointed out the subtle communication methods they used and how quickly they had shared information about each alien's weaknesses. "The most remarkable thing," Amy explained, "is that these cats had never worked together before. They developed their coordination strategy during the exercise itself. One of the alien students, a floating gas-like being named Kethmore, made a sound like wind through leaves. On my world, our cloud hunters can merge their consciousness to share thoughts instantly, but even they require time to coordinate complex strategies. These Earth predators did it in hours," Lisa pointed out. "They observed each other's successes and failures, learned from them, and adapted their own approaches accordingly. It's a level of real-time intelligence sharing that most advanced civilizations need technology to achieve." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. These aliens came from civilizations that had eliminated natural selection millions of years ago. Their predators had become museum pieces or were genetically modified into harmless forms. They had never encountered creatures that continued to evolve and adapt at the speed Earth's predators demonstrated. Zephyr's lights flickered slowly. "We must ask a difficult question. If Earth's predators can learn to counter our advanced abilities so quickly, what does this mean for our technology and our civilizations?" Jake exchanged glances with Lisa. This was the question they had been hoping the aliens would ask themselves. "It means," Lisa said carefully, "that Earth represents something unique in the galaxy. A planet where intelligence alone never guaranteed survival. Every smart species here had to become smarter than other smart species trying to hunt them." Tony pulled up a final presentation slide showing human technological development. "Humans developed complex technology not just to make life easier, but to stay ahead of predators that could learn to counter any advantage we gained. We had to become innovators because standing still meant becoming prey. This explains much about human behavior that we found puzzling, said Krilta. Your species' tendency to constantly develop new technologies, your paranoia about security, your complex strategic thinking. You evolved these traits not for conquest, but for survival. Dr. Campbell nodded. Humans learned to think like predators because we were prey. We developed technology to counter threats we hadn't even encountered yet because we knew that Earth's predators would eventually learn to overcome any defense we created. Valnox stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the big cat preserve. We came here thinking we would observe primitive creatures. Instead, we have discovered predators more sophisticated than anything our advanced civilizations ever produced. The other aliens began to murmur among themselves in their various languages and communication methods. Jake could tell they were processing a fundamental shift in their understanding of the universe. We request permission to extend our stay, Zephyr announced formally. We no longer wish to study Earth's creatures as curiosities. We want to learn from them. Learn what? Amy asked. How to hunt intelligence, Krilta replied. Our civilizations may have eliminated natural selection, but the universe is vast and dangerous. If creatures exist that can learn to counter our technology as quickly as these Earth predators learn to counter our natural abilities, we need to understand how to think like them. Lisa smiled. You want to learn to think like prey that became predators? Yes, Velnox said, turning back from the window. We want to learn to think like humans, like creatures that survived by becoming smarter than things trying to kill them. Jake looked around the room at the alien students who had arrived with such confidence just days before. They were different now, humbled but also enlightened. They had discovered that the galaxy's most primitive-seeming planet was actually home to its most sophisticated hunters. Welcome to Earth, Jake said. Class starts tomorrow, and the first lesson is that survival isn't about having the best technology or the most advanced senses. It's about being able to adapt faster than whatever is trying to make you extinct. Outside the window, Sasha walked past the building, pausing to look up at the conference room where the aliens sat. For just a moment, Tiger and aliens regarded each other through the glass. Then Sasha continued on her way, just another Earth predator going about her day, unaware that she had just redefined the aliens' understanding of what it meant to be dangerous in an intelligent universe. The exchange program continued, but with a new purpose. The aliens were no longer studying Earth's primitive wildlife. They were learning from the planet that had produced predators capable of hunting the predators of the galaxy.